Busy night in the state of South Carolina because while in Columbia, we'll be doing Sandstorm. Over there in the upstate, they'll be running down the hill in Death Valley. Clemson and Louisville have played. They played some. They have one, I would say, classic from their time as ACC foes, but they've always been, right there in the mix, always competing. But Clemson generally has the upper hand here. Tigers coming in out of an off week. Louisville had to stage a big comeback to be able to take down Boston College. When we're looking at this one, what are we expecting to see from the Tigers?
I think a lot of this is like, what kind of effort we're going to get from Louisville? I mean, they came out and looked like complete crap against Boston College. And then part of this was BC just choking that game away. But part of it was Louisville did kind of turn it on a little bit. Louisville has had some really up and down performances this year. Like, they had good fight against Miami. They had good fight against the Irish. And they've also just sleptwalked in a couple games.
UVA was a yucky performance.
That suggests they play up to their opponents, which would mean maybe they'll play fired up for this one.
I gotta imagine like this is big game Braum and he comes out firing. I don't know if that means they win, but like I kind of think Louisville could score here. I mean, that Clemson D line is not quite what it was, and I don't think what offenses does Clemson face that you think that's an offense that's on par with Louisville? Just Georgia, right? And nobody else. Like, who do you think is the closest offense?
Let's play Bud's favorite game.
Okay. Like, what is the closest offense? I will give you the options here for those listening at home. Is it App State? Is it NC State with right? Is it Stanford with the backup quarterback? Is it Florida State? Okay,
with the starting quarterback.
Is it right? Is it Wake Forest or is it Virginia?
Virginia
gave up 31.
And is Virginia closer to Louisville offensively, or is Louisville closer to Clemson? Or is Virginia closer to Louisville, or is Louisville closer to Georgia offensively?
Georgia.
I think so too.
Shoot, their quarterback's been playing better.
I think like Louisville is the best offense Clemson will have faced by like an order of magnitude since the Georgia game.
I know I've said this a million times, but I don't think Louisville's offense is that great. I think it's scheme, not team. Like, I think the coach is very good. I don't think the players on that offense are very good. And
for Louisville,
I
think talent-wise, they're a lot closer to Virginia than they are to Georgia.
Shuck or anybody else that they've played?
Shuck's the best quarterback.
Or Ja'Cory Brooks or
Ja'Cory Brooks, Chris Bell, Isaac Brown. I can give you three guys that I think have been good this year.
I mean, like, they have had some trouble blocking at times this year, I do think. Like, I think the O-line has taken a bit of a step back.
I'd agree with that big time. From last year, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And that's where playing at home at night, I think, is a huge advantage for Clemson to be playing in that atmosphere. But I do think – so I wouldn't be surprised, and Chip knows this because I stole a bet from him, that Clemson first half. Like, I think Clemson gets out to a big, early lead. I wasn't going to say big lead, but an early lead. They have been really good in the first halves. Defense is getting after it. Chuck's getting knocked around. And then kind of similar, what you've seen is Louisville just kind of keeps firing away. I mean, they don't ever go away. It's similar like Miami. Like, Miami was kind of lingering around, letting them linger around. I know they scored a touchdown late, but like there they were again with a chance for an onside kick to potentially tie the game up with Miami. I just think they're a tricky out. I think they're better than their record says they are. Clearly, they've had some tight games that they've lost against good teams. Tom's shaking his head. He's not buying it all. If they were in the Big Ten, he'd say, man, they're contenders. But since they're in the ACC.
No, if they were in the Big Ten, I'd say they're USC.
Ooh, that's a good point. Which is like it's like a pain in the neck to get out. Yeah.
That's not bad.
But they could pull off the upset. I think it's like they're capable of doing that if Clemson gets sloppy, doesn't, turns the ball over, which I don't think they will.
Can they get stops?
No.
Can Louisville get stops?
No.
I don't think so. I think Clemson's offense is playing really well now.
Well, the only thing I will say is we've heaped praise on Clemson's offensive line, and they've been really good. Matt Luke has done a great job. The defensive front with Tramel Logan, Jared Dawson, Thor Griffith, like they've been some pretty good pass rushers up front. thing about it, Cade Klubnik has proven to be pretty elusive. Like he against Virginia. I told you that I was watching that first half of that game. He got himself out of trouble. Like he's extending plays, not making the big mistakes. But I do think that's an area that we'll find out just how good the offensive line for Clemson is against Louisville.
I've been the Louisville skeptic on this show all year. Birds with teeth. I've never seen one, so you're just going to have to prove it to me. But like, I will say the good news, if you are Louisville, is in recent weeks, they've gotten better at finishing drives. Like it's only a 2-game sample, but in their first 6 games of the year, they were averaging 3.92 points per red zone trip. That's up to 5.33 against Miami and BC. So that's a good sign going forward because they're going to need to finish drives to have any chance of beating Clemson here. It's just like you mentioned, their defensive line, they're 13th in pressure rate, but they're 59th in sack rate and they're 75th in havoc rate. Like they don't get home. Like they do a good job of collapsing the pocket, but they never really finish the job, which is a problem because defensively they're 80th in explosive play rate allowed. They're 95th in EPA allowed per drop back against opponents, and they don't force turnovers. Their 6.4 turnover rate ranks 115th nationally, and that coincides facing a Clemson offense that's only turned the ball over on 3.3% of its drives, which is the 3rd best mark nationally. So if you're not forcing turnovers and you're not getting to the quarterback and you're not making tackles for loss and you're not stopping explosive plays, how the hell are you supposed to win?
I will say
think
this.
that's the key. Like
I was just going to say they haven't get home to the quarterback. The quarterbacks they've played have been pretty elusive as far as Castellanos.
So the one they're playing this week.
Again, yeah, true. Fair enough.
Kevin Jennings, Riley Leonard.
Yeah, they played a lot of really elusive quarterbacks, but you got
can
to
they make
home.
Clemson play outside their comfort zone? That's kind of my question. It's like, why do we think Clemson has to do something they're uncomfortable doing and they're at home?
Buddy, if you think Clemson is going to do anything outside of the plan at night in Death Valley,
right,
you're crazy. Like if you think Louisville's going to cover, it's because the plan involves kicking field goals when you should go for it and punting from plus territory, which is always the plan for big game Dabo. But like over the course of this game, I do not think that Clemson will be forced out of its comfort zone. They could blow it. You know, like they could make some mistakes that would be incredibly costly. Like that's definitely the potential. I don't think that's going to happen, but I fully expect that this game is going to be dictated on their terms. One other thing about Louisville, and I got no context quoted, or quote taken out of context when I was talking about Ole Miss and I was describing their 7th game in a row. And when I said they had been through a gauntlet, that's probably not the right word because I was describing just the idea that they have just gone through a lot of games without a break, a couple of them challenging. So this I'm not going to use the word gauntlet. It's their 7th game in a row. It's a hell of a lot tougher than Ole Miss's 7 games in a row.
Who took you out of context? I'll beat them up.
Okay, I'll tell. I didn't even look at the name, but I understood what had happened as soon as I saw it. I was like, all right, whatever, fine. But 7th game in a row, 2nd road game in a row. The stretch started with Georgia Tech. It has included Notre Dame, SMU, Miami, and now Clemson. These are good football teams, all played back to back to back to back. The performance across the stretch has been inconsistent, and I wouldn't be surprised that the performance in this game is a little bit inconsistent. So we'll see what Louisville's got left in the tank. It will certainly be a challenge on Saturday night there in the upstate. Any other Clemson Louisville thoughts? Bud?
Yeah. Louisville did not handle the road environment very well with the Irish.
Nope.
A lot of
Brown
mistakes.
traditionally has been okay on the road. Something's got to give.